Hey everyone, Marcus Philly here with Functional Bodybuilding, and today's video is a quick primer on how to get the most efficiency out of your double unders, SkiErg, rower, and assault bike. Lately I've been doing a lot of fun and varied functional bodybuilding aerobic workouts, and I'm bringing them to you soon in the 30-30 cardio challenge. So hopefully this video today with these tips and technique points are going to help you get great workouts and keep your body feeling good. So let's jump right in.
Hey, what's going on everyone? I just finished a cardio workout here at Functional Bodybuilding headquarters, the lab, and I wanted to give you tips on the 4 disciplines or 4 machines that I was using today, starting with the double under. I want to show you some common mistakes that I see people making and then some tips to help you fix them on all of these tools. First and foremost, on the double under, the most common mistake that I see people making is trying to do double unders and jumping with their knees. So it might look like lifting the knees really high up in the air. To be proficient at double unders and to be efficient, you're gonna need to learn a skill of jumping through your ankles. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. And I'm gonna show you with something called the basic bounce. So, jumping through my ankles versus jumping through my knees. To jump through your ankles, you're gonna practice this with a nice open posture, hands open like this, because that's how you'll hold the rope eventually. And you're just going to bounce through the balls of your feet very lightly. Learning the basic bounce is how you're going to master double unders only once you've mastered single unders. So take your time learning this skill with the single under. I've often said that if you can do 150 single unders in the span of a minute, that means you can't make mistakes, you have to be efficient with your hands, you have to perform the correct basic bounce. If you can do 150 in a minute, then you're ready to graduate to doing the next step in your journey towards double unders. Now I'm gonna move right into that, because double unders are essentially a single under with the basic bounce performed slightly higher with slightly faster arms. And the big disconnect I see is, how high do I have to really jump to get the rope to go twice underneath my feet? This is where people start to bend their knees a lot. They start to exaggerate how high they need to jump because they imagine it's going to take forever to get those ropes to go around twice. And in reality, it happens in less than a second. So the drill you're going to learn is the basic bounce, but we're going to call it now the penguin bounce, okay? This is the drill. I'll show you. I'm going to start doing my basic. If you caught that, I started to turn my basic bounce into a higher bounce, and I slapped my thighs twice. Kind of what a penguin looks like in my cartoon mind. Anyhow, when you jump and you slap your thighs twice, that is roughly how long you need to be in the air to successfully do a double under. So if you can get that timing correct with your basic bounce mechanics and not reverting to your knee jump, then you are well on your way to having the technical foundation to do a double under correctly. So in review, basic bounce, palms open, perfect that with the single under, 150 in a minute, then get your penguin bounce and learn that, and then you can pick up your rope and you can start trying your double unders again. Okay, next up is the Concept 2 rower, or any rowing machine that you have at your home or at your gym that you have access to. The technical elements of this are pretty much the same regardless of the tool that you're using or the brand machine. One of the biggest obstacles I see in rowing technique is getting people to set their bodies in the correct position at the beginning, this is also known as the catch, at the beginning of their stroke so that they can optimally use their legs, their hips, and their back to generate power. You're not going to be a successful rower if you're using your arms a lot. And if you can't get into this position where I'm slightly leaned forward, if you're constantly in this position, again, you're relying on leverage at your knee and you're not going to get a lot of power. So what can that look like when it's done incorrectly? So the mistake looks like I'm too vertical, and how that gets set up is by trying to come in too fast. So that's the first tip I have for you, is learning a cadence that is fast out, slow in. Okay? I don't care how long it is. It could be 1 second, 1, 2. 1 second, 1, 2. But the return back in a slower pace can allow you to get set in that position. Fast, slow. Fast, slow. Fast, slow. Now I know there's a lot of different verbal cues and coaching cues out there, like hands first, lean your body, keep your legs locked. I just like the timing piece of slow in, fast out, because that's something that I think can match your breathing rate, and it's easy to think about when you're rowing. The second most common mistake, and I already mentioned it, is trying to leverage your arms. Okay, so if you're doing a workout that's got rowing and other implements in it, like we use in functional bodybuilding, let's say a kettlebell, let's say some toes to bar, your arms are going to be getting a pump from lifting weights and hanging onto the pull-up bar. Which brings up 2 points. Number one, you want to conserve energy on your arms when you're doing rowing. Number two, when your arms are pumped up, it can start to create this kind of mind-muscle connection where, okay, I'm working these arms on my toes to bar, I'm gonna work them over here too, and you just wanna keep using them. So, on the rowing machine, it's important to remember to relax the arms or keep them straight as long as possible and kind of let them be just slack, okay? So as I row, I'm really only thinking in that final quarter of the stroke, am I going to use my arms? So in review, don't be somebody who's racing to get in and rowing with your knees. Be slow on the return, fast on the stroke. Slow on the return, fast on the stroke. And when you're fast on the stroke, let your arms be the final thought. They're not doing much work for you. Okay, let's move on to the SkiErg. Okay, the SkiErg is a less commonly seen tool in a lot of facilities, although it's showing up a lot more these days. I got introduced a few years ago, and with the rowing machine and the bikes and other elements within functional bodybuilding that have been around a little bit longer, we've had a lot of coaching cues on them. I haven't seen a ton of coaching on the concept to SkiErg and the mechanics of it. A lot of this I've just learned through trial and error. And trial and error for me is looking at the computer screen on any one of these machines, seeing how I can produce the most power with the least amount of perceived effort. That equates to efficiency and performance. So here's a couple things that I see done wrong when I've either done them myself or I've seen clients do them. This is the stroke that I tend to see, is let me break down the 3 mistakes that are going on there. The first mistake is just hinging at the waist. This flexion of your hip and a little bit of your arms become the only power generator. If you just hinge, you are not taking advantage of your body weight as a leverage to pull down on those handles. That happens through a squatting mechanic, okay? You can do a combination of both for optimal power and performance and efficiency here. It's a squat with a hinge, and it would look like this. So my center of gravity is going up and down, and my hips are also getting sent backwards, my torso coming forwards. I'm not staying totally vertical, and I'm not completely hinging. I'm doing a combination of both. The second mistake, or the second fault that I demonstrated at the beginning, was pulling behind me with the handles, okay? Now, in cross-country skiing, which I believe this is meant to simulate, there is definitely some merit to that, because when your poles go into the snow and you're moving forward, then your hands are going to end up behind you as a result of just your speed and your directional force that you have. However, here, we're not trying to go forward. And the way we get efficiency on this machine is by the tension in these cords. When I get to this point, going backwards doesn't apply very much force or a lot of resistance on the cables. If I go down, that does. So the fix here is, instead of rowing behind you, I want you to think about rowing down, and you're finishing the stroke down towards your feet, not behind you, okay? You might be thinking, oh, I'm getting a better tricep workout if I push back this way. I assure you that the bulk of the tricep and the arm workout comes from this action here, which is really at the beginning, not at the finish. And you can still get elbow extension if you push straight down. Okay, the last mistake that I was showing was this. Okay, we were doing a hinge behind us, and I was only reaching up about halfway on every stroke. This sort of halvesy stroke, okay? Just like the rowing machine, if I don't reach all the way in to get a long enough and powerful enough stroke, I'm not taking advantage of my body mechanics. And the same thing here. If I don't reach all the way up to the top, I can't leverage my full body weight and the distance of this rope string cable. So the fix is reach up and then down, reach up and down, reach up and down. So a few strokes that have me putting it all together. Here we go. And you can just hear the power coming out of that fan as compared to when I was just doing my half bent over elbow tricep kickbacks. Okay, we're moving on to the final piece, which is the assault bike. Let's go. All right, we're gonna wrap up this technique discussion with the assault bike, or there are lots of different versions out there on the market these days, but essentially a bike that's got some handles and has a big fan that is providing the bulk share of the resistance. Now, people like to call this the devil's bike or the devil's tricycle for good reason. It is really challenging, it packs a punch, and there's really no way to cheat it or hack it or truly become more efficient. Certainly with the rowing machine, the SkiErg that you just saw me on, there are ways to make your stroke a lot more efficient, but with this, the fixed resistance, just pedaling with your legs, there's not a whole lot you can do. However, I have a couple tips for you that I believe will help. And before I go into them, I just want to preface this by saying, I know that this is not going to work for everybody out there, and there are going to be a lot of you who are bike experts, and you will disagree with what I'm about to say, because this is not the way you fit your bicycle for when you're riding out in the world, mountain biking, road biking. However, I have found over years of doing this that this can help a lot of people. Even the people that I have met that are the best on this tool make some of these adjustments on the assault bike, and they see their power production go up, or the efficiency or their perceived effort start to improve. Now, what am I talking about? Well, this is what I typically see people do, okay? Jump on the assault bike, all right, this is their position, and they ride. And you might be thinking that looks about right, okay? Couple points. Where the seat is positioned right now, every time I pedal, my arm is fully stretched, and I actually have to rotate my upper body to get all the way out to the end of this pedal stroke, okay? So then I go to the next pedal stroke and I'm reaching out again. And I'm doing this rocking action, and basically from here, like the bulk of the stroke or the pedal stroke, my arm is in this position, and that's not a very strong position. I mean, if you're gonna have handles, you may as well use those handles. So I would argue that I'm way too far back, and this is what I see often. People don't pay attention to where they're at relative to forwards and backwards over the pedals and the handles. So I'm too far back. Secondly, as I'm riding, my leg is always in this like more or less flexed, bent position. So my quads are always on tension, and the pedal, when I'm like, this is where I'm gonna, on my, let's look at my left foot. This is where I'm gonna put force down into the pedal. My foot, the ball of my foot is about 12 inches, 1 foot in front of my hip where the power is getting generated from. Okay, so I would say that this is not only too far back, but I'm too low for optimal force production and best practices. The settings that I'm at right now are the seat is all the way back, and I'm at a number 5. So if you ride the assault bike, you're familiar with these numbers. What I ride at typically is a 9, and I move this seat forward so it's 1 click shy of all the way forward. Okay, I'm 5'10", and a 9 is quite high, and people will start to wonder, Marcus, I think you're wrong here, you're too high. Now, what this puts me into a position for is that at the place where I'm gonna produce the most force, my hip is more or less right over the ball of my foot, and I'm at this angle of my knee where I can really drive a lot of force through that. Secondly, you can see that even when I'm at the end of my pedal stroke and the crank arm, I'm always in this position where my arms are kind of close to my sides, and I can really use a push and pull. I'm not outstretched out beyond my optimal force production zone. So I can stay more or less over the pedals. My leg at the bottom, it's not fully extended, but it's pretty close. So I do get a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a break from my quads constantly being blown up and contracted. I'm using my hips more, and I can really push and pull with my arms. The last benefit to this type of positioning, as I see it, is that I'm a little bit more upright, which is gonna help my breathing, as opposed to being in that crouched down position where I'm reaching, and I'm collapsed in my torso, which can make breathing a little bit harder. So this is the position that I have found works for me, and I'm not saying that you need to go with these same numbers by any means, but I'm asking you and I'm encouraging you to try raising your seat height 1 click, maybe 2 clicks, move your seat forward 1 click or 2 click compared to where you typically set it. And once you've done that, you can practice this simple drill, which is pedal for 30 seconds, rest for 30 seconds. Pedal for 30 seconds, rest for 30 seconds. Find a hard but comfortable pace. Do that for 4 or 5 rounds, adjust your seat. Do it for 4 or 5 rounds, adjust your seat. Do it for 4 or 5 rounds, adjust your seat. And just experiment and compare, how does it feel to be a little bit higher, a little bit further forward. I hope that helps you. Matter of fact, I hope all of these tips help you. I hope you get involved in our 30-30 cardio challenge and put all of these technique tips into practice when you join Persist coming up next week.
All right, so if you have all these tools available to you, I'm gonna link my aerobic workout format video in the description below so that you can go check out what goes into an aerobic workout that will get you fitter without suffering through boring or painful cardio. And lastly, be sure to also check out my Persist training program where you can get Look Good, Move Well workouts and this free 30-day cardio guide just for being a member. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.